What is the best main weapon in Helldivers 2? These are the items that you're going to use to fend off bugs and bots on a regular basis. They need to have good ammo, high usability, and a solid amount of damage so you can survive and complete objectives. Sadly, most of the main weapons in this game are either not balanced or overbalanced, and while all but one are usable, you will want the top 5 best options on almost every mission. So let's go ahead and rank every main weapon in Helldivers 2 from worst to best. The Diligence Counter Sniper is the one and only worthless weapon in this game, and by worthless I mean it provides literally nothing for you and actually makes missions harder when you take it. They took the other marksman rifle and got rid of most of its ammo, then gave it +2 damage and called it a day. Yes, sniper type weapons do have lower ammo count, however snipers also come with really high damage, taking out even medium-sized targets in one hit. The counter sniper can't clear out hordes at all because it shoots too slow with low damage and massive recoil. It is only good at range, but takes the full magazine to tickle a bug, and at the end of the day it provides nothing to combat. Needs double if not triple the damage or way more ammo. Really bad against both bugs and bots, making it an F tier. The Scythe is a laser gun that has a heat generation mechanic. Shoot it long enough and it's going to eventually need to be reloaded, or you can shoot just before the max amount and then let it cool down, granting what is essentially infinite ammo to the user. And this sounds great, but the weapon is outclassed in damage on every turn. The one and only effective way to use this item is with a max laser loadout where you run laser cannon and the guard dog rover alongside it. And even then, you're just swapping to cool down your laser cannon without ever needing to reload. Nice on cold planets since it heats up less there, but poor damage. And now we got the new Sicko weapon that also has heat generation. Not a laser, but deals way better damage and makes the Scythe obsolete. Sometimes at least usable for bots and bugs on cold planets only, earning it a D tier. The Jar Dominator is our one and only explosive weapon type at the moment. This is a shotgun that shoots with high power. In theory, this would be a great weapon as you get decent ammo capacity and it's going to take out those targets more basic weapons can't. Except they designed it with way too many downsides. When you shoot this gun, it feels like you're breaking your shoulder, man. Absolutely massive recoil that makes you want to swap weapons immediately. The reload on this also just takes 1 second too long, which can be frustrating. And when you shoot the gun, it lets off smoke out of the barrel, which can completely blind you when scoped down sights. This item excels at headshotting devastators and taking out biospewers faster than other primaries. But it is also a shotgun, requiring you to be up close, and both of those enemy types kill you by the time you're in range. You can't give a gun one benefit and then downgrade everything else about it just because it's explosive. Weird feel overall against both enemy types for a D tier. The Breaker Spray and Pray is a shotgun that has an absurd amount of ammo, more than most other weapons, allowing you to fire a more than appropriate amount of lead into bugs. The recoil feels about right for this shotgun, and when smaller bugs come out to play, they are toast. Excels at taking out fodder. My issue with it is that you really need to be up close. Any good distance between you and the enemy negates all of your high ammo amount, as you will need to waste more of it to defeat the target. The reload is not horrible, and you won't really require a resupply all that often. If you are constantly getting swarmed and can't get out of hunters' prawn thingies, then this can work. Only good against bugs though, as bots need more range to deal with. D tier. The Liberator Concussive is your explosive auto rifle. The fire rate and ammo capacity are lower than the regular Liberator, but you get the added benefit of explosive shots, which is a little misleading as explosive shots really do nothing but add a little bit of stun. Usually this knocks back enemies just a bit, keeping them from attacking you straight through rounds of bullets. At times, this can be useful, and the ammo amount isn't half bad either. However, its main issue is underperforming. The gun just never feels quite right in any situation. And when I think assault rifle, I don't think of a weapon that fires as slow as a DMR almost. More damage seems beneficial over stagger. Mediocre against both bots and bugs, but usable against both at least. D tier. The Knight is your typical up-close SMG. It fires really fast, making it tough to aim at times, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't fun to use. Sounds mean and gets lead moving. Problem is, the other SMG we have is simply way better, and the Knight suffers from being an up-close only kind of weapon. Mows down smaller bots and seems to run out of ammo too quickly on bugs. Lots of flash when aimed down sights, and the recoil is tough to manage. At least this item stands out for having almost triple the fire rate of any other primary, but an alternative alternative SMG being much better hits this hard. Feels kind of solid against bots at times for a C tier. The Arc Blitzer is an electric shotgun. You gain infinite ammo, and that is really the only benefit. In order to quote-unquote balance this gun, the devs gave it the lowest fire rate in the game, which forces you to weapon swap to make it effective. Honestly makes the gun super sluggish and feel really horrible in combat. Now, the nice thing is that this gun does deal crazy damage. If the lightning arcs to a single location on one target, it can obliterate even brood mothers in a single shot. Sadly, this gun is extremely inconsistent, sometimes arcing to multiple enemies, not dealing enough damage to any of them for the kill. I felt like it was really good for stopping hunters, and then all of a sudden, it wouldn't kill them. I love the idea behind this weapon, but you can't hurt it this bad just because it has infinite ammo. Already, the 5-foot range is enough to balance it. Why make the damage incredibly inconsistent and trash the fire rate? Only good for bugs because you don't want to be close to bots, and shooting usually messes with their aim, which this hardly ever gets to shoot. C tier. The Breaker used to be the best gun in the game, an up-close shotgun that deals massive damage and for some reason gets to shoot across the map. The upside was having massive damage that was always reliable. The only minor downside was you ate ammo fast and reloaded often. Well, here's a very fine example of how to not nerf items in your game, because it went from being the best weapon to a very, very mid option. I hate this weapon now. You can't shoot it without reloading as they decrease its mag size and up the recoil. Doing both of those made the gun feel horrible to shoot. The damage on this is still fantastic, which was why a lot of people are still gonna like it, but needing to reload that often really sucks. Stupid to nerf the only good gun in the game when all but 4 other options needed buffed to be up to par. This right here is why people say buff, not nerf in PvE games. Buff first to make sure things are up to par, then you can start nerfing if items are a problem. Highly effective against bugs still, but one of the worst nerf decisions I've ever experienced in games I've played. C tier. The Liberator Penetrator is your medium armor penetration assault rifle. It gets 10 magazines, seeming like a lot of ammo, and is actually really effective for medium targets. Both bots and bugs are easier to handle if you have someone else to clear out the little stuff. And I also like the scope on this one, making it feel great. All except, we once again see a very stupid decision, all because this has medium armor pen. The gun needs reloaded every 4 seconds. Yeah, you get 10 magazines, but only enough ammo in each mag to defeat 2 enemies. Either give this more damage or more ammo per mag. Right now, it can't keep up even though everything else about it feels great. Medium armor penetration is not an excuse to make the weapon deal this much less damage. C tier. The Punisher Plasma is a shotgun that shoots out an exploding plasma ball. It's actually more like a grenade launcher than anything, as the plasma curves downward heavily. I'm actually pretty torn with this item, as on the one hand, the damage feels really good, considering they gave it plenty of ammo to lob out, and affecting multiple enemies at a time is a nice bonus. But after some testing, these plasma shots actually curve more than the grenade launcher itself, which means hitting targets is highly inconsistent and much harder to do than necessary. And you might think, oh, well, just get closer. Well, get too close and one lob instantly drops you from full health to 0. Then there's the number one problem, that being it does not fully resupply ammo from one resupply pack. Your main primary weapon only gets half of the magazines back per resupply. What a stupid decision. Immediately, you should just take something else. Now, playing in solo, or with less than 4 people, this is more usable, especially with the ammo supply pack. But the weapon's hard to hit enemies with, easily team kills you and your friends, and has this sucky ammo downside. Too many negatives when the Scorcher does the exact same thing with more accuracy. Stop overbalancing weapons and just make them fun to use. B tier. The Liberator is your starting assault rifle. It's nothing special, but also has no major downsides. You can clear out small enemies easily, and it is equipped with a very nice feeling scope. It actually feels like the perfect starting weapon. Not really excelling in the damage department, but doing enough to feel good. Ammo is great in every way, and the fire rate keeps things off of you. The gun feels great to fire and has a very nice reload. For some reason, games love to kill reloads on guns nowadays, making this a breath of fresh air. Perfectly fine weapon that most are not going to use after getting other options, but no one would be wrong to select it for bots or bugs, although definitely better for bugs. B tier. The Diligence is the only usable marksman rifle in Helldivers 2. This is your DMR style weapon that gets more range and damage, but less fire rate than assault rifles, and this is a very solid item. Would be nice if it did a bit more damage, seeing as it's a rifle, but ultimately it's well rounded. Having an excellent scope, damage at least deals with enemies, and you get the bonus of a more ranged advantage. My one major complaint is that if you're not aiming down sights, it feels exactly like a shotgun, like identical to all the other shotguns in the game, mainly due to the recoil, which doesn't really make any sense. I don't think it's amazing in any way, but does do a nice job against bugs, and since range is so beneficial against bots, you have at least a nice option there for picking off patrol units at long ranges and hitting weak spots. I really liked the reload on this as well, which is something to note. A tier. The Punisher is a pump-action shotgun. This means you need to reload each bullet individually, but you also can fire without fully reloading. It puts in work. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this item because it is close range and somewhat slow, but there are a lot of targets that get crushed when you blast them with this. One of the few guns that performs exactly as it should, one-shotting almost all smaller targets and keeping things at bay. The best benefit here is that when shooting targets, it pushes them back, not just staggering them, but actually moving their bodies further and further, which can let you move forward and push a location more heavily. If you find yourself needing more power and always playing in close range, then you're looking at your perfect option. Takes a second to get used to the individual reloading, but paired with the Redeemer sidearm, you can manage well. Much better for bugs and not all that amazing for bots, although still viable. A tier. The Breaker Incendiary is the fire shotgun. It does feel a lot like all the other 200 shotguns we have, but also sets targets on fire. And who even really cares about that, because DOT damage might as well be non-existent in this game. No, the benefit of this shotgun is it performs well overall. The reload really doesn't feel that slow, the damage is good enough to clear out the enemies you constantly shoot, and mainly, I love its ammo capacity. Over double the ammo the regular Breaker has now, stopping you from constantly reloading and just making combat feel more enjoyable. Now, due to the spread, it's mainly for bugs, but I do like it there quite a bit. And if you sort of want a pre-nerf Breaker with a little bit less damage, this is it. Also, wow, this has the perfect recoil. I feel like my screen's hardly moving at all, and while the burn is very negligible, at least it is there. Fun to spray out into a horde, and while not the best damage-wise, it feels solid instead. A tier. The Slugger is a very similar gun to the Punisher, and by that I mean everything about them is the exact same, all except for two aspects. The Slugger has less damage than the Punisher, but it also hits way harder. The description even says perfect for punching big holes in big targets. Firing high damage slug rounds, it really does take out enemies fast. It has incredible pushback, keeping enemies off of you and penetrating weak spots hard. Highly effective against both bots and bugs, as it has much more accurate range than the Punisher version. The scope is not quite as dead on as I would like, but you can often hit weak spots on Devastators from a good distance. Grants you a weapon that's effective against many more enemies that these other primaries can't compete with. S tier. The Defender is the best SMG we currently have. This is the single most well-rounded gun in the game, offering everything in one. More ammo than most other options, so you fire away, killing hordes easily, and needing to conserve yourself much less. It has excellent range with more manageable recoil, letting you scope down sights or not with ease. You can run it on an SSD mission and still use your main gun, and it actually deals enough damage to be up there with the top dogs. Now, this item doesn't have the highest damage, firing more slowly, but because of its ammo capacity, you can handle yourself well. Medium targets usually need cleaned up with a support weapon, but the thousands of hunters that spawn in are cooked. The reload on this item feels nearly perfect, and if you aim down limbs, you might find your new favorite support weapon. Amazing for bugs if you simply need to mow down more small stuff, and fantastic for bots as well since it handles really nicely at longer ranges. A seemingly simple tool that handles so well it climbs to the top of the ladder. S tier. The Sickle is one of the newest guns added to the game. It is a heat-based weapon, meaning as long as you don't overheat this, you have infinite ammo. And weirdly enough, it fires like an assault rifle. Not actually a laser like the Scythe, but instead laser bullets, I guess. And there are so many advantages to this. But before we talk about them, we have to mention this has the single best scope in the game, looking very clean and functioning at long ranges. I dare say it's the only scope that feels satisfying to use, and it's effective for aiming at that. You also have good damage, very high fire rate, insane range, and quick reload. If you overheat it, it'll actually reload and shoot faster than waiting on the cooldown. Very high utility with this item that definitely performs way better on cold planets and against bugs. I do like it for bots as well, but we're going to talk about in a bit how there's only one option for bots you should be using. The sickle doesn't feel overpowered or anything, it just feels like a really well-rounded primary. Probably not your best bet on hot planets, but everywhere else I could see it being a new favorite for most Helldivers. S tier. And finally, we have the single best primary in the game, that being the Plaz Scorcher, and this is completely uncontested. It is the only weapon that both fires at very long ranges and has extremely high damage, because it is very similar to the plasma shotgun. All of its bullets explode on impact, which means it takes out Devastator shoulder rockets and is one of 2 primary guns that can defeat walkers, and even shoot down brood mothers without them still attacking after their head falls off. You could shoot those spore towers down in 5 shots and very quickly take down any enemy. Chargers die to this if you blow up their backside, and quite quickly too. Bile Titans usually have their terrifying acid guts exploded after only a couple shots, and the only thing it doesn't deal with is armor. So 80% of the enemies in the game die to this, while every other weapon is only 40% effective at best. That is a massive difference, and on top of that, this gun is extremely accurate and shoots straight, unlike the plasma shotgun. This is the obvious choice for bots, as you can't get anything better, and half the time I use it for bugs too, because it is one of the very few primaries that deals with bile spewers quickly from far away. Now, all this power does come with one downside. You're gonna immediately die if you shoot something close to you. Miss and hit a rock, shoot a hunter or bot meleeing you, this downs you instantly. The plasma AoE is very deadly. After some playtime though, it does get easier to use, and with its more predictable nature, it far outperforms the plasma shotgun. Maybe a little low on ammo at times, but a good supply pack fixes that right up. S tier. And there you have my ranking of every primary weapon in Helldivers 2. There are not a lot of incredible options, but most can at least be usable. I would highly recommend not using shotguns for the automatons unless it is the slugger, because range will save you every time. And for bugs, something like the incendiary or sickle is your optimal choice. Maybe in the future we'll get some nice balance changes for these items, but for now, the top 4 options work well enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.